How to be content with what you have. How you doing, guys? Professor EDC with another BLADE-OSOPHY Sunday. And yeah, let's talk about that question. It is something that it's not so obvious. And, well, we may have a very large collection of knives. We may have a full collection of knives. We may have a small collection, or we may just be starting. But the point here is to enjoy what we have. Now, that's something easier said than done. So, and we hear that or read that very often, but how can we be content with what we have? Well, first of all, we need to get to know what we have on a deeper level. And this, I'm not just talking about objects, I'm talking about people, talking about ideas. And what I'm saying here is we need to study, analyze, experiment, reflect upon, and understand what we have in hand, what we have in our lives. Whether that's something of the material world, of the emotional world, or the spiritual. But that's always a challenge for us, isn't it? To be content with what we have. And unless we dive deeper into these aspects, how are we gonna get to know what we have? It is much like dating, isn't it? But dating in the older fashioned way, not so much modern dating. Nowadays, you don't even date and you're already sleeping with the person. And, well, to each their own, but is that the best way to get to know someone? And so, I think whether we talk about a collection, whether we talk about a person or an idea, we need to learn to appreciate. Okay, so what about appreciating? Now you're talking about being content, and now you're talking about appreciating. That's right. To appreciate something, again, we gotta fall in love with its elements. With the shapes, with the forms, with the colors, with the details. With the acoustics. With the tension. Apply that as you may to relationships, to thoughts and ideas. And once we get past that, we'll start learning, right? The better use, the appropriate use, the appropriate ways of using a tool like this, or the appropriate ways of behaving in a given relationship, or when developing a certain idea. You see, it takes time. It takes time to get to know the sound of a woodpecker, like we just heard, and appreciate it. It takes time to get to know any of our blades and enjoy them and appreciate them, and just being content with what we have, whether that's a single blade or a full collection. Another important thing, in order for us to appreciate, to learn to appreciate, to learn to be content, is we need to manage desire. That's right. We need to learn how desire works in our very individual personalities, or in our very individual lives. Desire works similar and at the same time differently for each and every one of us. And what desire pulls us to do. There are many collectors that are driven by desire. The true collector is not driven by desire. And so that is a talk for another moment, but note that we need to learn to manage desire. And if you notice, all of these points are going to help us one way or another in our lives in general. Another thing that's, I think it's important, is to appreciate unique elements, distinct elements from the mainstream. Whether we talk about the modern standards of beauty, or aesthetics, the modern standards of aesthetics, the plastic standards of aesthetics, yeah, I'm referring to people, or unique elements that make something special, whether it's an object or the personality of someone, or even the greatness of an idea. Like this thinness, right? How well it cuts. And so, let me go back to this one. This is a great example of appreciating unique elements. One of my favorite patterns or models. And instead of criticizing, why not trying to understand, to decipher the language, to decipher the person, to decipher someone's personality, to decipher the positive, the strength and weaknesses of something, and noticing and knowing that those both positive and negative and neutral make up that idea, that object, that person. Know that we change and evolve. And there is a difference between changing and evolving. When we evolve, we do so consciously. We do so through the maturing of ideas, emotions, personal development, the maturing of information. Do you know why samurai were trained in different arts, not just in the art of war or training? That's a chat for another day. But I'll refer to it as good taste, as a broadened, much richer mind, much richer intelligence, point of view. And yes, good taste plays an important role in all of this. And as I talk about good taste, I gotta say, you have to know what you like and your preferences. It is essential in order to be content, in order to be able to appreciate. Do you know what you like and your preferences? Know thyself, remember that? And how important it is in so many ways. And finally, as important as every other point that I've mentioned, is to know your limits. We may have big aspirations, and some of those might be based on objective facts, but some of those might not. And that's something that we gotta discern. We gotta know what is objective and what is subjective. And what our limits are. For example, don't go into debt for a collection. Know your financial limits and enjoy what you're able to get. And enjoy how this hobby changes and moves, and that there are trades and so on, and that there are different ways of exchanging. How to be content is a process. It's not something that is just given. At least, not for me. That's something I've learned, and I keep on learning. And I hope you guys have a wonderful week ahead. Professor EDC out.